through the sustainable growth and innovation part now. Usually, normally, in fact, we would have with us Fabian, the chair of our goal, Fabian Ziegler, but unfortunately he's on holidays, so he sends, of course, his apologies. If he was with us, however, I know that he would have talked to us about modernizing our industry, innovating our industry. He would probably ask us to reflect on the recent political changes, global changes, and the importance that these changes have on decarbonization, on the rate maybe of the decarbonization, and on the renewables, obviously. Even if this rate can be at different speed for different regions or different countries. And I know that Fabian keeps saying that, attention, we are behind the curve. So I'm sure he would have mentioned these things. He would have also probably said that we need to always have in mind of having the right size program, the right size renewable agenda. And obviously, as he has been repeating this all the time, the industry must stay together. So this would have been probably the words of Fabian. And then I will take you through the agenda for today. I mean, it's up on the screen. I'm not going to go through each of the items. I think you have received the agenda. I would start with the action plan we have for 2025. Again, a very ambitious action plan. In broadly speaking, it is two big blocks, as it was also last year. The one, it is about promoting innovation, promoting appliances, the exceptional energy in action. And this includes, of course, the Innovation Summit, again this year, which is very important for our 3-year strategic plan. We are going to do a new study as we do a new report every year, exceptional energy in action, the website with applications. We're going to work on the marine liquid gas and, of course, the GTC, the Global Technology Conference. And then the second block, it is the big block, it is on the renewables, on the decarbonization. I'm not going to go through all these that you see up on the screen. You can read them yourself, but my colleagues later on will take you through some specific things where we are focusing this year through this program in Working Group 1 and Working Group 2. Now, as an introduction to the renewables and some updates, a few words, a few things which come from the steering committee meeting that we had recently in January. You know here how it is our governance with the steering committee and the renewable, the two working groups I mentioned before. And you see again here the members now of the committee. You may have noticed that we have 6 members now rather than 7, but we are very strong, and we are trying to also mobilize other members to join into this very important work we're going through. The last discussion was focused obviously about the closing of 2024 and the highlights both in the working groups and on the budget, which is very important, that allows us to go through these activities. If I could maybe focus on a few points. In this meeting, we had a good reflection on the political changes that I mentioned also before, how important these are for the decarbonization, renewables, pathways, and roadmap. We said that not everybody is at the same urgency, the same needs. A right-sized renewable program for liquid gas, it's very, very important. We must maintain our focus on renewable DME because this is one of the best options we have amongst the many options, the various options we have for the decarbonization. We must maintain the focus on the renewable DME. We discussed the transport automotive importance for the blends that we have. We want to put in the market, and also obviously we agreed on the budget. Something else that it is important that we have been participating in the Indian Energy Week a few weeks ago, a very, very important, very impressive event. And WLGA organized a session, a 2-hour session on this, where we talked about the renewables in general, but also renewable DME specific and DME even if it's not renewable, because in India and in Asia there is some interest also for the DME, even if this is not renewable. But you can see up on the slide what was the structure of our session. Really very interesting, and a lot of good participation. So probably this wraps up what I wanted to say as an introduction to before the two working groups come in. And here I would like to invite my colleague Gaur to take us through what's going on in the first renewables working group, the working group 1. So Gaur, I would like to pass the floor to you, please.
Thank you, Nikos. I hope everyone can hear me well. So if you go to the next slide, Nikos, I just have one slide. It's a bit busy slide, but I will break it down for you. We are building on the momentum we created last year, because in 2024, our focus in the working group was on renewable liquid gases pathways. We concluded a study which is available for members to access. The study looked at a set of technologies and pathways that would result in renewable liquid gas volumes, looking at 2030, but also 2040, 50, and beyond. This year, we'll make sure that we jump from the content of the study to more on messaging and dissemination of these messages with key stakeholders. So that's the first project that we have listed here on the slide that you can see. We are working closely with advocacy pillar. Advocacy pillar is really in the lead, but from this working group perspective, we're making sure that we extend our support on the content, on development of message bank and engagement support where needed. In addition to that, any specific queries that arrive which are focused on supply of renewable liquid gases or technologies, we would also investigate those. And one of the queries that we are currently looking at is the HVO bio-LPG pathway. And that's the pathway that is currently commercially available, producing small yet growing quantities of bio-LPG. But we often see that the bio-LPG from this pathway gets recycled back into the process for hydrogen production or for use as process fuel. And it's not always separated out and then sold into the market to the LPG industry. So we are in this project develop a hypothesis that we are comparing the two cases. If you were to recycle bio-LPG for hydrogen production, what does it do to carbon intensity of the process, compared to a scenario where you would separate out the off-gas stream and then sell bio-LPG into the market for use in heat and transport. So far, we have looked at mass balance assumptions of this process and two cases that we are comparing, and also biocarbon accounting assumptions. This biocarbon accounting is very critical because it would decide or dictate where those biocredits are allocated, and ultimately would influence the greenhouse gas profile of the two cases that we are comparing. We are at a stage where we would like to test these assumptions with a third party to make sure that we understand whether our hypothesis is correct. If it's correct, then we have something to work with and engage with producers using the evidence. And if not, then we stop the project right there. The third item is moving beyond supply and also looking at the end uses and applications, because renewable liquid gas that comes from different pathways has to be ultimately compared on a cost basis with competing low carbon technologies. So idea of this project is to make sure that we develop a tool that would help and facilitate our members to be able to compare renewable liquid gas costs with the cost of some of the other technologies that are competing with our sector, the likes of electric vehicles, but also heat pumps. This project has been kicked off already, and we have identified a third-party tool because we started with asking a question like what already exists. So there's a tool that already exists. It checks quite a few boxes, but we do need some additions and customizations in this tool. But we are engaging with this third party to make sure that we develop an engagement plan and try and work together. Then the other bits, project development case studies. There's a recurring question that comes back to us from members, but something we also saw last year in Cape Town during LPG week. It was asked time and again that we are as a sector trying to develop new pathways, but we face a lot of challenges. So what are those challenges as you tread on a journey to innovate a new pathway, starting from R&D to pilot to demonstration and all the way to commercialization stage? What are the challenges, and can we learn from adjacent sectors who have done something similar? Or the case studies looking at success stories, but also failures. So we draw lessons from those case studies and disseminate that information within the sector so that we can benefit from it. And last but not the least is about, because all of this we put in the context of decarbonization discussion, What are the other decarbonization levers that we can use to our benefit to make sure that we advance on low carbon journey? Supply pathways are part of the solution, but not everything. And we believe that CCSU technologies, carbon capture, storage, and utilization, could be key technologies to contribute to decarbonization. But we have parked this project for now because we are waiting for decarbonization scenarios work to be finalized, which would be talked about in a bit. Once that project is finished, then we can scope that project down a little bit more precisely. And because we are talking about priorities, we've also deprioritized certain things. In our wish list, we always included hydrogen blending with LPG, reforming of DME to hydrogen, green jobs that you can anticipate if you were to deploy renewable liquid gas technologies and pathways. We believe that all of these projects and topics are relevant but not so critical. So we are only prioritizing what we believe we can deliver. So I think we need to be careful that the right size program. We believe this is the right size program, and as long as we have member support in terms of resources and budget, we would continue to execute. One thing before I finish, there is also decarbonization scenarios work that is ongoing at the moment under the leadership of Cinch. It follows a broader governance structure, and from Renewable Working Group 1 perspective, we are only providing input. We are not in the lead. So I just wanted to make that clear. So that's all from my side, Nikos, and I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, many thanks. And this will take us now to the second working group, which is the working group, that deals with the introduction of renewable DME into our market as a product. But before I give the floor to Emmanuel, I don't know how many of you or maybe all of you, I don't know, but you know that Emmanuel Manor-Torrenil from DCC Energy, Butagaz in fact, has been appointed to chair now this working group, which was being chaired by Steve Hallett from Daimita in the past. And then after Daimita was dissolved, I was taking care of it for the last 6 months. So now we are very happy and grateful that Emmanuel Manor-Torrenil is with us to chair this very, very important work in the working group. And with this, I'll leave the floor to Emmanuel to take us through what is in the 2025 plan for this activity. So Emmanuel, the floor is yours.
Yes, hi. Thanks, Nikos, for those good words. And let's jump straight into the next slide. And I can say, as I joined as chair of this working group recently, I've been really pleased and impressed with the quality and of the work and the technical expertise of the various people who are contributors to the working group. So I want to give everyone a flavor of that. So just as reference, the working group is focused on building knowledge and evidence that will support the safe use of renewable DME. And for well, more or less since the start, but even increasingly since the end of last year, we focused the work on the use of DME as a drop-in to LPG. As you can imagine, you could also supply DME in pure form or higher blends of DME and LPG to some users. But we focus on the drop-in, which we think will benefit most of our members and most of our countries. The working group oversees a couple of things. One is research and testing. The second one is knowledge sharing and producing of guidance. And the third one is preparing changes in standards and regulations. On the research and testing side, there's been a lot of work in terms of looking at previous research, analyzing the risks on the supply chain, and an immense work on the testing of materials. Whatever you have in your typical supply chain, bronze, SAMAC, but also non-metallic materials, elastomers, quite a bit has been tested, and we are at the moment summarizing some of the test results so that they can be more readily made accessible to everyone. The 2025 focus on that front will be to continue testing of some equipment, but also more focus on the testing of appliances. So, for example, engines, boilers, cook stoves. Not only materials as we were doing previously, testing an elastomer, but testing actual equipment and appliance. The second part is knowledge sharing and guidance, and I want to again thank the representatives from members, but also non-members sometimes. But it's essentially LPG distributors, equipment manufacturers, and some other experts who contribute to our work. We want to do more in 2025 in terms of attracting interest and getting inputs specifically from OEMs. And that's a focus area for us. But the work over the past few years is also coming to some conclusions, specifically on the safe use of DME in our LPG facilities. So guidance is going to be issued very soon on rules that operators can follow in terms of handling DME and handling DME LPG blends. Lastly, the changes to the standards and regulations, they're not always a core responsibility of WLGA, because many of the standards and regulations that would apply are actually regional or national. I'm sure many of you are aware that a key achievement in 2024 was reached with the acceptance by the UN and ADR committees of up to 12% in the DME up to 12% DME in the LPG, which is assigned to dangerous goods codes UN 1075 and UN 1965, and really this is a testimony for the quality of the testing work that had been conducted. So we want to continue on that path, and we are doing more this year in terms of coordinating and sharing knowledge between what is being done by this WLGA working group and what is being done by national or regional associations, so that we can pave the way for a smooth, as much as possible, a smooth transition from the testing and experimentation into changes to the standards and regulations that allows the adoption of a drop-in blend of LPG and DME. Let me move to the next one, and this slide is just to give you a more tangible example of what is being done this year on the specific area of appliance testing. As I said, it's a key focus area for us in 2025. We've started work at a lab in France called CETIAT, an interesting laboratory because it's supported by 6 equipment manufacturers which are focused on boilers, burners, more or less, essentially. And we are starting to see very promising results on the first boilers tested. So this is in, not a lot of detail, but just to give you a flavor, what are we doing? In this program, we're going to test 10 appliances. They cover boilers of various types, water heaters, cooking stoves, barbecue, and camping camping equipment. The picture in the middle is an example of, it's an example of the first condensing boiler which has been tested. So it's a very well-equipped lab, and we have seen that they are running very rigorous testing protocols. And in this example of the condensing boiler, we are looking at all the measures which are mentioned here: heat efficiency, emissions, ignition and flame stability, airflow reduction, fuel pressure reduction, and fuel composition variation, and how the boiler would behave when there is changes in fuel pressure or variations of the fuel composition. And we are comparing the results of or the behavior of the boiler when it is run with propane with increasing blends, with increasing increasing portion of DME and propene, so that we have a very clear measurement of how introduction of DME may change the behavior. And because it actually covers tens of slides with tens of graphs, I've not wanted to include the actual results here, but the results on those first boilers are actually very pleasing, because they really show that they can be operated safely and maintain the same efficiency. So this sort of program is what we are doing at the moment. It's not only heat and cooking equipment, but we also have in the work program to cover engines, engines for FLTs or automotive, and we want to make sure that we cover in an appropriate way equipments that will be used in other settings, like in agriculture or industrial settings. And it's really a key year for us, because the testing that I mentioned here in CETIAT is to be covered by the end of September, and we have a lot of testing which is front loaded in the year on other areas like hoses and some and PE pipe, etc., which I believe will help us draw much more convincing and elaborate conclusions on the residual risks and the safe use of RDME as a drop-in blend within this very year. Thanks for this. Looking forward to give you more updates on the actual results. For some of you maybe in Katowice, for those who can join the European Liquid Gas Congress, or certainly later in the year when we have those members update webinars or other occasions.
Many thanks, Emmanuel. Many thanks, and many thanks for taking this role so important for us. So with this, we will pass to the next subject, which we heard you heard also before from Gore, the decarbonization scenarios report, and I would invite Sinch to take us through this activity.
All right, thank you, Nikos. So this project, you have maybe heard of this previously. We've been working on it now for a handful of months. It's an interesting project in that I feel like it's a game of word association in that when people hear the term decarbonization, they tend to jump to a lot of different ideas of what this report will be. If you work in regulations and advocacy, you may think that's what it applies to. If you work in innovation and renewables, you think that's what it jumps to. And the fact is, it covers all the above. We talk about it within sustainable growth and innovation, but it could just as easily be a project within advocacy or even within business improvement, because it covers all the above. It's not just about decarbonizing our industry. It's more about within the global energy system. Here's where our industry helps decarbonize the complete energy system. And on top of that, our industry has a plan and has tools available to continue to decarbonize and provide secure, accessible energy for the long term. So it really is an advocacy tool when it's done, as well as a technical overview of the different tools that we have available and that we're developing that have been talked about already in this presentation to keep liquid gas and LPG at the forefront, because it's about all of the fuels and about the value our industry brings to the global energy system. So we reported out some data in Cape Town. We got very good feedback from the members and really appreciate that input. That's critical. Next steps, we're continuing to develop the narrative of the report to showcase the value of our industry, and then going a little deeper on the data. We kind of looked, and it's going to take a deeper level of data analysis to effectively show the story. So that's in process as well. So this is ongoing. Goal is to get something done in the next matter of weeks, and it's in progress. With that, let's talk a little bit about the Innovation Summit, or actually this year it's the Strategic Innovation Workshop. We've mentioned a couple times that we're in the process of doing every 3 years we do a strategic review, and that is happening currently. We're doing surveys and interviews and talking to members about what they see in their markets and what they see as strategic priorities. Within, a lot of those questions refer to innovation. So in Katowice on May 19th, as opposed to the Innovation Summit that we tend to have every year, we're going to change the format slightly and do an innovation workshop. And we're going to take the input that we've gotten through our strategic review, bring our industry council members together, and really have a very interactive dialogue, discussion breakouts, conversations to prioritize prioritize and plan the activities and the programs that are going to drive innovation over the next 3 years. And so this will be, I'm really looking forward to this session in Katowice. It will be very engaging. If you are going to be in Katowice and you're not part of our industry council, please send me a note, because the input and the engagement of everyone is what makes the output of this valuable. So really looking forward to that. And if you want to be involved, please let me know.
Many thanks again, Sinch. And this will take us to the GTC and GSE. And the message here is, like every year, please pass the word around. Alert your networks that this is a very important event. We have a submissions process. It will be closing the 30th of May. And we will have this event taking place, of course, on Tuesday, the 23rd September in Rio. Very, very important, the GTC, for innovating our industry. Equally important, the GSC, the Global Science Conference, for innovating our industry on the renewables part, the production of our renewables part. And again, you will recognize maybe the same dates. Both GTC and GSE were launched in January, in February, sorry, beginning of February, and we have again the deadline on the 30th of May. So please do pass the word around. You see here also there is a link to the website which provides more details and the guidelines for submission. And we count on you on spreading the word further. Last thing, a few words about what we're doing on marine. Marine really is going very well, is expanding. A big interest on LPG as a marine fuel. Over 285 engines have been ordered to equip a similar number of ships. And what is interesting this time, it is that 15 of these are ammonia carriers. We have been talking in the past about ammonia and how ammonia will be somehow coming after the LPG fueling because it has no carbon, etc. So we see now happening this, and these 15 vessels will be fueled by LPG and will be coming on the water soon. We have a promotional campaign on marine, which is already starting, has already started this week. We are preparing another report for small boats. And very important, we have a forum, a conference this week, in fact, tomorrow here in Athens. And we are in a panel talking about all the benefits of LPG and meeting all our important stakeholders, ship owners, etc. To close, and before I thank everyone, maybe a few things what I think Fabian would have told us if it was himself here closing the session. He would have probably told us that we must stay strong together, something which I mentioned also in the introduction, that there are important challenges coming ahead, and we are much stronger when we are together.